Sunscreen, it is something we really need year-round here in Arizona, but especially now that the weather is beautiful and we're spending a lot more time outdoors. But, of course, the warning, not all sunscreens are created equal. That's why we have Dr. Angela DeRosa, who is an internal medicine doctor in Scottsdale, joining us this morning to tell us more about this. Thanks for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
We see sunscreen, we hear different things, what you should look for. What is the difference between, say, something that's SPF 15 over SPF 50? Do we really need that difference?
No, you don't. And actually, when you use sunscreen properly, SPF 15 or SPF 13 is going to be just fine. The biggest problem in today is that we don't use enough of it, or we use it improperly. So we really want to make sure that you use the proper amount and use it at regular intervals. So for instance, if you have an SPF 15, you want to make sure that that's only good for 150 minutes. So you need to be reapplying after 150 minutes and making sure you're lathering it on. And I like to always tell my patients you should be putting on about a shot glass of
That
sunscreen.
sounds like a lot.
It's really not. You need enough coverage to make sure that you have adequate protection, because if you don't have enough, you might miss spots and then you have an area of burn, which can lead to skin cancers down the road.
You talk about SPF 15, you're going to need it every 150 minutes. Does it change with the number of how often you should be lathering up?
Well, frankly, when you look at SPF 15 versus SPF 300, the 300 really actually means 300 minutes, because you would take that number, multiply it by 10, and that's considered the amount of time that you can actually go without having to reapply.
This is the first time I've ever heard this, folks. Okay, so the 15, add the 0, that's how many minutes it's supposed to last before you have to reapply.
Exactly. But the problem is that you have some sunscreens that are out there that suggest that they're 50, 75, or more than that. And actually, once you hit that 30 threshold, you're not actually getting any additional benefit. So it's a bit misleading. Okay. So if you can get up to 30, you're doing just fine.
Okay, you have several different ones that you brought here, some of your favorites.
Yeah, well, it's favorites and not so much. Okay. Because unfortunately, expensive doesn't always mean better. And for instance, our first one here is a very expensive sunscreen, which has got all the bells and whistles in it. It's a moisturizer, and it also, you see in a lot of the sunscreens with antioxidants, which have a lot of retinoids in them. And they're touting them as going to be really good for your skin, but unfortunately those retinoids can convert to a metabolite, which can then lead to skin cancer. So these types here, lots of bells and whistles. This one also has the DEET, which can prevent for mosquito bites as well. But unfortunately, the amount of DEET that's in that product can actually cause toxicity to the skin and to the body. So you're actually paying for extras that could potentially be harmful.
It's best to go with sunscreen that's just for the purpose of sunscreen.
Just plain, simple sunscreen. And the next three here, they're fabulous sunscreens. They're good sprays, because a lot of people find it convenient to put sprays on. It's much easier to get application. But also, they all have UVB and UVA protection, which is important in sunscreens.
You want to look for those 3 letters.
Correct. Because if you don't have both, it's not a broad spectrum sunscreen, and they're not going to get adequate protection. Okay. So you need to make sure it's broad coverage, and you need to make sure you're going to use it. So if you're not going to use the type of screen, then it doesn't matter if it's a spray, gel, or lotion.
Is there a difference between the way it's applied in terms of coverage?
Well, certainly you have to be careful with the sprays, although they're more convenient and easier. Some people just lightly dust themselves, where you really need to cover so you get adequate, heavy coverage.
You want to look greasy to an extent where you can rub it off.
Exactly.
And last but not least, if you can get to this last one that you brought out.
Well, the Neutrogena here is actually not any better than these 3 here. It's actually a little bit more expensive, and the toxicity of it and the agent that actually causes the sunscreen is not good for you. So these middle 3 sprays are actually excellent, because they're very cost efficient. They're all under the $10 price point. They're easy to apply. They have very low toxicity and ingredients that actually cause the blockade of the UVA and UVB rays, and you can easily apply them.
Dr. DeRosa, thank you so much for spreading awareness on sunscreen, because it's so important as we talk about year-round, but especially now as we spend more time outdoors. If you'd like to reach Dr. DeRosa, it's all on our website at azfamily.com. Again, she's out of Scottsdale. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tess.